Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to the series of videos in which we're going to cover measures of central tendency and dispersion. I'll start off with some basics of central tendency in this particular video. So let's say we have this example where we have a group of 7 students who have recently appeared in an exam, and these 7 numbers here represent their scores in the exam out of 100. Now, what you want to do is you want to describe how their performance has been in terms of a single number. So that's basically the idea of central tendency, that you want to describe a whole bunch of numbers, some data, using one central value. Now, there could be many different ways of thinking about the central tendency. And for our purposes, we need to know 3 of them. And they are mean, median, and mode. Now, let's discuss each of these measures one by one. Of course, since it's mostly going to be a review of what you already know from your O-levels, I'm going to be a bit quick about it. So let's start with the mean. Mean can actually be calculated by adding all the values and dividing by the total number of values. So in this case, for example, all you need to do is you need to add these numbers up. So you'll say 81 plus 50 plus 72 and so on, and whole divided by 7. That gives you 71 as the result. So the mean of these numbers is equal to 71. If you look at it on the left side here, you have this notation x bar here. So this is important to know as well. So let's say these marks were represented by this variable x, then the mean of these marks will be represented by this notation x bar. So whenever you have a bar here, you should know that we're talking about the mean. If you look at your formula sheet, it's going to look something like this: x bar equals sigma x over n. So sigma here means you want to add some numbers. ठीक है, sigma का मतलब होता है mathematical notation में you're talking about the sum. So sigma x, you want to add all of the numbers up and divide by the total number of values. So this is how you can calculate the mean when you have raw data like this without any tables. Now let's consider the median. So again, let's look at the same numbers. Median actually represents the middle value in a set of data. However, you have to make sure that you first order the data. You can do it either in ascending order or descending order, that doesn't matter, but you first have to order the data. So in this case, you can first order the data. You can say it's 50, the smallest number, then you go in the increasing order, and then you figure out what is the middle number. So you could do it like this, like you used to do in your O-levels. So you could cancel out one number from each side, like this, and you would only have this single number left in the middle, and that will be your median. Now, of course, this is a special case when you have the total number of values that is an odd number. So we have 7 values, so this works in this case. Whenever the total number of values is odd, you're going to have one single value in the middle. Now, let's say आपके पास instead of 7 students, you had 8 students. What would you do in that case? So let's say आपके पास 8 students हैं, and you have another student who had marks of 48. Now, the total number of values now is 8. So if you start cancelling from both sides, you are going to be left with 2 numbers in the middle, right? So how do you calculate the median in this case? Whatever are the 2 numbers in the middle, take the average of them. So 64 plus 72 divided by 2, that's going to give you 68 as the median of this second set of numbers. All right. Now let's consider a more general case. So let's say आपके पास, so these were very small number of values. हो सकता है आपके number of values बहुत ज़्यादा बड़ी हो. So let's say you have let's say 83 values, right? So let's consider an odd number first. Let's say you have 83 number of values. How would you find out कि किस number पे it's going to be the middle value? So this is the general formula that you're going to be using for that: n plus 1 over 2. So n is the number of values. So in this case, let's say हमारे पास 83 values थी total, 83 numbers. How can you find which value is going to be the middle one? You say 83 plus 1 divided by 2. That gives you 42. That means whatever is the 42th value in your data, that's going to be the median. Now this works whenever the total number of values are odd. Now what happens when the values are even? So let's consider an example again. So let's say the number is 54 in this case. So let's put this number in the same formula and see what we get. So if you were to put this put this number there, we will get 54 plus 1 over 2, and we get 27.5, right? So whenever there's an even number, you're going to get something 0.5 as the result of this. So what would you do? In this case, it's 27.5. So you will say, I take the 27th value, the 27.5 से immediately below number है, and you take the 28th value, that जो 27.5 से immediately above number है, you take those two numbers, 27th and 28th, and you average those numbers. हमने पहले किया था, you take the average of those two numbers, and that's going to be your median, right? Let's consider these examples to understand the two cases better. So let's say you have a total of 83 numbers here. So let's say this is the first number, this is the second number, then I've skipped some numbers here. So then let's say this is the 41st, 42nd, and 43rd, and so on until the 83rd number. So the median in this case, as I figured out, has to be the 42nd value. So that is this value here. So the median in this case should be 56. Now let's consider the other example where the total number of values is 54. So let's say you have another set of values, and these are 54 in total. So let's say you have the first value, the second value, all the way until the 54th value. And in the middle here, you have, let's say, 26th value here, 27th, 28th, 29th. All right. So since we figured out the median in this case has to be the average of 27th and 28th values, that's 57 and 59 from here. So we will say the median is 57 plus 59 divided by 2, which gives us 58 as the result. So the median in this case has to be 58, and in the first case it was 56. So let's consider the last one, that is the mod. Mod is simply the most repeated value in a set of data. So in this case, you have 87. Yes, so you have 87 here, and you have 87 here. You have 87 being repeated twice, and there's no other number that has any repetitions. That means in this particular scenario, the mod is going to be 87. Of course, it is possible that there are two possible mods or more than two possible modes. So that's also possible, that can occur. So let's say in this particular example, like it was 72 जो है एक दफा और होता, both 72 and 87 would have been the mode.